Hello, everyone, and welcome to Next Level Leadership, a live stream series to support leaders during this crisis. Today is episode 5, Commit to a Higher Level of Discipline, where Warren Rustand will share ways to bring higher levels of discipline to your daily practice during this crisis to continue the momentum of your life. Each week we introduce Warren. Many of you have seen Warren speak and attended events. You've heard him introduced hundreds of times, and it goes something like this. Here's Warren. For those of you that haven't heard or seen Warren Rustand, he is former CEO of Provident Service Corporation, served as member of the board of directors for over 50 public, private, and non-for-profit companies. Warren served as appointment secretary to President Ford, global chairman of WPO, co-founder and dean of faculty at EO's Leadership Academy, countless awards, Sports Hall of Fame, White House Fellow, but the award he treasures the most is Father of the Year in his hometown of Tucson, Arizona. This is a conversation. Post your questions. Also share where you're from. We'd love to know. Just remember, this live stream will be posted on Facebook as well as YouTube. Please share it. Thank you all for being here. We are all in this together. Here's Warren.
Great to be with you again. It's great to be with you today as we have another conversation about important things that are going on in our life. All of us have been swept over by this huge pandemic, this catastrophic event globally. And so we're all trying to react to it in different ways. In the first sessions that we talked about over the last 3 weeks, we talked about creating a mindset framework based on 3 principles of leadership. Those principles are clarity of vision, certainty of intent, and the power of values. That creates the architecture, the framework for the mindset we have to be a great leader, to be successful. All the great leaders that I've had the opportunity to associate with over time have used that framework in different ways to create their own success. And I believe we have to use that as well. Following today and the next sessions we're going to have, it's going to be the applications of personal greatness. How do we take the very real activities we have every day and utilize specific principles of application to exercise that mindset that we just discussed? And so the first one today is committing to a higher level of discipline. On Monday, we're going to talk about living with purpose, then acting with intent, making conscious choices, and engaging in a cause greater than self. And so we'll figure out how we actually apply those 3 great principles of leadership: clarity of vision, certainty, intent, and the power of values. Because you see, what happens in crisis is that we get overwhelmed by the crisis itself. And this pandemic, this coronavirus, is a classic example of that. It's happened before, it'll happen again in our future, and we must be ready for it, more ready than we were today. And so as we think about this, we have to pause during the crisis to say to ourselves, what are we learning? What lessons are we really learning during this time? We may be learning that we were unprepared. We may be learning that we didn't have sufficient cash flow. We may be learning that our family wasn't in as good a shape as we thought it should be to handle a crisis of this magnitude. We learn a lot about ourselves. So take the time to pause and ask yourself, what lessons am I learning? Because what happens in crisis is that we tend to abandon those things that made us successful because, again, of the overwhelming nature emotionally of the crisis itself: fear, uncertainty. And so we tend to abandon those habits, patterns, and rituals. And those are the things that show progress every day. Those are the things that move us toward our goals. And so the opposite actually needs to happen. When we're in crisis, we need to increase the level of our personal commitment to discipline in all things that we're doing. 60 days ago, 90 days ago, everything was great and everything was going well. And for the most part, our businesses were successful. And sure, we had everyday problems and everyday issues, but we were focused on the future. We were swept up in one of the most successful economies in the world, both in North America and around the world. Things were going pretty well. And look where we are today. Look how quickly our world has changed. It seemed just a minute ago, everything was fine. And in a second, it was catastrophically different. And so how did all that happen? You know, and it's no fault of yours or mine that this happened. This is completely unseen. No one could have predicted what has occurred. And yet we are at the epicenter of what's going on. We in the private sector who are running companies, who are entrepreneurs, are the ones who are feeling the great burden of this particular pandemic. The private sector is really damaged by this. Just in the United States alone, with the unemployment numbers that will be announced today, it's expected that unemployment will be more than 20 million people, which is beginning to reach depression era events. As we look across the globe, in countries all around the world that are struggling with this pandemic, unemployment is running amazingly high. It's going to be a struggle for a period of time. So too many people in this situation get caught up in the retrospective or the history of what's happened. And I'd urge you to put that behind you as quickly as possible, because it doesn't help us get to our future. There's a second group that really focuses on current state, and that's important, understanding where we are today and what we have at our disposal. And then get to the prospective, which is looking at the future, thinking about where we're going, finding opportunity in crisis, finding the path that we can follow, even though it may be a bit dark and unknown, the path that's going to take us out of all of this to a more successful future. So the first step in dealing with crisis and discipline is to realize that we have to increase our level of discipline in all of our activities, family, business, community, and self. We have to ratchet up that discipline, even in small increments. Just do a little bit better every day from a discipline viewpoint, and you will see your lot improving pretty quickly. If we take a family, for example, I shared with you a few sessions ago how I thought about it. I tried to get clarity of vision for our family as this was coming down on us. And I settled on 3 words that I thought were really important as quarantine came in, shelter in place, lockdowns occurred, and our movements were constrained. I thought about our family and I thought, what is it in our family that I need to do? What is the clarity of vision that I had? And it came out to be protection, security, and organizational discipline. We needed to protect our family from the virus itself. That meant isolation, masks, little contact with the outside world from our family. I needed to secure our future, meaning I needed to figure out what kind of resources and assets and money we had that could get us through however long this was going to take. And then I had to say, we can't just hang out together. We need to have organizational discipline around our family because our children still have to go to school online and our grandchildren. We still have to have playtime. We have to have meal time. We have to have time together as a family and time apart and alone as individuals. And so we put in place organizational discipline, which really helped us. And I hope you've done the same. Eliud Kipchoge, from Kenya, who's one of the greatest long distance runners of all time, said something that may be helpful to us as we think about our talk today. Only the disciplined ones are free. If you aren't disciplined, you are a slave to your moods and you are a slave to your passions. So discipline is at the center point of freedom. It's the notion that all things come better as we have discipline. So the second step in understanding moving to a higher level of discipline is this: the world is changed by those who do, and those who do are disciplined. The most successful leaders with whom I've associated, presidents of the United States, political leaders of all types, business leaders across the globe, people who run great not-for-profits, the people I've had a chance to meet, all understand that if you want to change the world, you have to be disciplined in your approach. If we want to change our world as it resides right now, we have to change our approach. So we have to have a bias toward action. And that starts with very simple things. From the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed at night. Every little piece of our life, every day, we need to increase our discipline during a time of crisis. Our morning routine. You know, I talk a lot about the 10, 10, and 10. 10 minutes of gratefulness, 10 minutes of inspirational reading, and 10 minutes of journaling every morning. Then the second thing, get exercise. It's especially important during a crisis, right? Because we are emotionally in turmoil. And one of the things we know that can help anxiety, that can help stress or pressure, is physical exercise. And so get that physical exercise. The third thing is we have to eat decently. And what we find during crisis is we don't. Yeah, we just reach for the easy stuff. We overeat because we're feeding our psychology. We're feeding our stress. We're feeding our feelings of insignificance. So really be careful about your nutrition. And then the last thing, of course, is managing and scheduling your time. And it's more difficult and challenging now because we're not going to an office. We're not meeting with clients. We're not selling. We're not doing the things we normally do. But we're at home. And yes, we're online and we're meeting as best we can and exercising our duties as leaders during that period of time, but it's different. It's just different. And so having more discipline around our time management is also critical and essential. There are too many people who slump into times like this, who roll their shoulders forward, start looking down. We need to put our shoulders back, our head up, our back straight, look forward, see the distant horizon. Because there's sunshine out there. There's light out there. Things are going to get better. You know why? Because they always do. No matter how dark it is now, there's light. And we're moving toward the light. And all of us have been affected by this. Me, you, everybody. Our children's businesses have all been greatly impacted by this. All of the families that they represent, our children and grandchildren, likewise have been affected by this. None of us are impervious to this. None of us are immune to this notion of a crisis like this. And so we need to look forward. We need to find that future. You and I are going to do this. Just as I used family a minute ago, for this second step, let me use business. I said in my clarity of vision, there were three things that are critically important for our business: cash, revenue, people. I got some questions about why I put people third, and you could put those in any order you'd like, but my view is if we don't manage our cash and find sources of revenue, that the people issue is pretty difficult and there aren't many options. And so we really have focused on making sure we're managing our cash position and making sure that we manage the revenue and finding new sources of revenue for businesses. And then the second thing, of course, is how do we handle the most important resource we have, which are the people who work with us in our businesses. And there are three ways of dealing with that, right? The first is, you've heard, cut once and cut deep. That has its validity. The second is do it incrementally. Slowly reduce salaries, furlough people, use unemployment benefits and other government programs that can support and sustain salaries of employees during this period of time. And that also is good, but it has a limited long-range effect. It's a short-term solution. And the last way is trust the room. It's a little bit like we do in Forum. It's a little bit like we do within EO, YPO, and other groups, right? It's this notion of let's trust the room. And I had an experience where I actually had to bring all my employees together because the choice wasn't obvious for me. And I wanted to do the best I possibly could to make it successful for others. And I put it to the room. This is the cash we have. This is the status of our business. Completely transparent. What would you like to do? And over a period of hours, the employees began to create models and work it and talk about it, and were so generous and kind to each other that in the end, they came up with about a 30% reduction in salary across the board would allow us to get through the next 6 months where we thought the light at the end of the tunnel would be. And we got through it successfully. We didn't lay off a single person, and everybody was great, and it built the corporate culture in a significant way. So the third step in having a higher level of discipline is that disciplined endeavor creates hope. Disciplined endeavor creates hope. You and I need to be looking out to the future and saying, where is our next opportunity for greatness? Don't get mired down in feeling badly about where we are, but look to the future to see where we're going to be, the next opportunity for greatness. Focus on the future state. Create pivot points for your business and for your family and what's going on. You know, you've never spent this much time in your family, maybe in your life, and all of a sudden we're together every day. Well, what are we doing to really build family? What are we doing to create a pivot point for our family? You know what we might realize is that all the busyness of family isn't important. What's important is the productivity of family, the closeness of family, the time we have together, the fun we're having, the stuff we haven't done before, playing board games, playing quizzes, taking walks together, riding bicycles together, doing stuff that we just haven't done for a long time, brings such great inherent value to our families that maybe we won't go back to the way we were. Create those pivot points. Look at your resources, inventory your assets, figure out what knowledge you have about family, business, community, and then apply that to the future state. Create a new culture. I was talking yesterday with Marco Gargenta from San Francisco, former EO or still in his EO forum. And we were talking about the new world of work and what's going to happen in the future. And I suspect, and I'm just speculating, and maybe with you, you've had some of the similar thoughts, this notion that the world is not going to be the same going forward. There are going to be fundamental changes in all societies as a result of what we're experiencing today. For example, I think there are going to be children who will never go back to a traditional school. They will always stay online learning. I think there are adults, parents who are working at home who realize they're not going to commute to a corporate center or an office anymore. They can be just as efficient and productive at home, and maybe even better for the family in some ways. I think we're going to have people who are not going to get on cruise ships, get on airplanes, not gather in large groups, concerts, sporting events, and so forth for an extended period of time, at least until there's massive testing and a vaccine that works. We may be looking at 12 to 18 to 24 months. So we need to plan for the long term. The short-term crisis is here. The long term is where our minds need to be. And so as Marco and I were talking about the new world of work, what that culture is going to look like, his business plus is a business that works with Airbnb and Spotify and a host of other Silicon Valley companies to create a new culture of work, to create learning with work. And so that you're not just trading a unit of money and a unit of time for employment, but rather you're trading a unit of time for growth and development as a leader in the context of that work. And so it's that opportunity. The world and culture of work will change dramatically. So at this particular time, being an entrepreneur is both a blessing and a curse. It's a really difficult and challenging time. I've heard from so many of you. I love to talk with you. I love to communicate via text, online, or in this forum when we can share our feelings, share our concerns. It's hard, it's tough, it's difficult. All of us are in this. But we're risk takers. It's the nature of an entrepreneur. We see opportunities, we move toward those opportunities, and somehow we figure out the resources needed to get there, the time, energy, and involvement of ourselves and others to make a success. That's going to get us through this. That spirit of entrepreneurship is what makes us great. And the support of EO as an organization helps us find that new future. I think this can be our finest hour or our worst hour. You and I decide that. No one else does. Winnie, let's take some questions and see what's on the mind of the people who are listening in with us in this conversation.
Great. Thanks, Warren. So I wanted to just shout out some of the locations, people that are here today from Tanzania, Pakistan, Singapore, Kenya, DC, Calgary, Denver, Knoxville, Atlanta, Houston, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Vermont, Nepal. You have an amazing group today with you, Warren. So my first question comes from Nina Razzini, and I believe she's in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Her question is, where is our next opportunity for greatness?
It's a great question. I think each of us has to define that as we look at our business and we look at our families. Greatness is not confined just to our business, right? Greatness is about family. It's about community as well. I think we need to be spending some time, some quiet time during this crisis when we're not overwhelmed with the emotion of it all, to be quiet and silent and find that still small voice in you that will help you appreciate and understand what's the next step for you. And it's different for each of us. All of us come to this crisis with different assets, resources, and knowledge. We need to use all of those and apply all of those in a rational way to find the next moment of greatness. I believe that the nation states, the global community that comes out of this is going to be bigger, better, stronger than it's ever been. We will get through this crisis just as we did 2008, 9, and 10, and we thought the world was coming to an end. That global crisis, you remember that? That was just 12 years ago. You remember how hard that was? Really difficult. But because I'm older, I can go back further than you can. I can go back to the late 80s and early 90s when we had another huge economic and financial crisis, and we thought the world was coming to an end. And you know what? Each time the world has gotten better, more successful, more technologically driven. And I think this is going to be that moment. So let's find that moment for us. Let's find that chance for greatness as we look forward. Whether we're in Tanzania or we're in Tucson, Arizona, or we're in Kathmandu, Nepal, opportunity will strike us in the face, and we'll see it, we'll feel it, and we'll move on it. And that's going to be true for each of us in this environment.
Thank you, Warren. A few more shout outs. We have Colombia, Dallas, Ohio, Bahrain, Panama. We've got Dubai, Mexico, Nova Scotia, Monterey, Kansas. Next question comes from Marsha Rawls. How to encourage others how to commit to a higher level of commitment by giving back when looking at increasing focus and discipline.
Marsha, you're leading one of the great efforts by EO in giving back right now, and that's the United Nations efforts and the sustainable goals that we've committed to support. The 17 sustainable goals of the United Nations and the 4 that we're focusing on specifically with EO. So I applaud you and thank you for the great work that you're doing and the leadership you're providing right now and the meetings in and around the EO that are coming up in late June. I'm excited to be a part of that. Thank you. And I was part of it last year as well, and it's fantastic. Each of us needs to find the opportunity to give back. When we're feeling really lousy about ourselves and really bad about our situation, the way we can feel better is to help somebody who's in worse shape than we are. There are thousands, even millions of people around the globe who are hurting right now. We can identify them pretty easily. We see them on the streets. We hear them in Zoom calls and phone messages. They're in our forums. They're in EO. They're in other organizations as well. And for some, this is an even harder time than it is for us. And if you're feeling not good about yourself and your circumstance, just go find somebody to help, just a person. If each of us can help one person, great. If we can help more than one, fantastic. But we have the gift of helping others. Our situation is tough, but we're still in better shape than almost everybody else in the world. These are first world problems that we're dealing with in our lives. There are a lot of third world people around us who are just struggling, and they're homeless on the streets. They're in refugee camps, right? They're just a lot of places. Let's have the humanity to go help them. No matter how bad we're feeling, let's be great human beings and let's help others. We're trying to do that with our family, and I hope you'll do that too, both individually and collectively, because we can make a big difference. And if we could save one life in this process, think of the ripple effect across the globe. If all 14,000 of us in EO helped a single person or a family or a business, think of the impact that would have. Marsha, you're leading the assault on this. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Marsha. So we have Devin Hager. What do you attribute your self-discipline that has led to a successful life in business and personal?
That's a great question. I think it came first from my father as a young boy. I just saw him working really hard. I just thought that everybody had to work hard. I didn't know there was another way. I didn't know I could relax and take it easy. And so he just worked hard every day. The hardest working man. And I'm finishing a book right now on these very principles that we're talking about. And in that, I talk about my father and what he taught me. And he taught me how to work hard. He was always engaged in action, in doing. And he was always helping other people. He was always a friend to other people. And so I saw that as a model. So that's the first step. The second was sports. The only way I found to be successful was to be highly disciplined. And I wasn't blessed with great skill. There were many athletes with more skill, but I found my way to be drafted by the Golden State Warriors, right? And the way I found it there was through hard work. I shot more shots. I ran more wind sprints. I worked harder. I lifted more weights. I did whatever was necessary to compensate for a lack of natural talent. And so I found hard work. And then I found that my first CEO job was when I was 24 years old. And man, I found that if I worked hard and really was committed and dedicated, it worked there too. And it's worked in everything since. And same thing with family. If I'm really dedicated, committed, and work hard as a father, it makes up for my shortcomings. And the kids can say, yeah, he's not very smart, but he's a good guy, right? He works hard. So I just found that dedication really important. So I often find myself over the course of the day thinking, what can I do next? Not how can I relax? So the kids know, our children know, and our grandchildren know that fun for me is working. So when I come home on the weekends, we cut trees, we plant flowers, we drive tractors, We clean the manure out of the horse corrals. We do all the stuff, right? And then we make fun for it. You know, it's great to do together. And so I can't wait till late this afternoon. I'm going to put a grandchild on each fender of that tractor, and we're going to go mow grass for a couple of hours this afternoon, right? Hard work, but a lot of fun.
You promised to share a picture with us, Warren?
I will.
And I'll say for everyone with us today, thank you, Warren, for being so committed to us. You know, we know how many phone calls you've gotten every day from people that are in need, that need your help and your guidance. And thank you for being here for us.
It's an honor for me to get a phone call from some, if I can help a little bit, because you know what? People help me along the way. When I needed help, I got to reach out. And if people are reaching out to me, I get a chance to help too. And that's really what all of us are. I know all of us are getting phone calls, and we're going to help every way we can.
Thank you. So next question is from Miranda Nyman from Tanzania. In your lifetime, have you ever had a phase where you lacked discipline? And if so, how did you reignite it?
Yeah, I think I went through a phase, and this will seem funny to you probably, but there's a drink that I like that was created in Texas a long time ago, and it's a soft drink, and it's Dr. Pepper. And I love chocolate. And so I went through a phase where I drank too much Dr. Pepper and ate too much chocolate. And I wasn't very disciplined from a personal viewpoint. And I still struggle with it a bit today, but I've pretty much given up on the chocolate, and I drink about a Dr. Pepper a day. So I'm okay. You know, I'm in recovery. Sure, there are times in addition to that where I was either perplexed and therefore I didn't take action, or I was overwhelmed for a moment in time and I had to call time out and take a pause. I think it happens to all of us. And I think it's happening to a lot of people from the calls I'm getting, it's happening to a lot of people right now. And they're just overwhelmed with the fact that they've lost everything. And I'm not sure all of us on this call appreciate that, but I hope you do, that we have a lot of brothers and sisters on this call and outside of this call who have lost everything. They've closed their businesses, never to be reopened again. They have debt that they have to repay. They have no source of income at the moment. And we need to be really sensitive to our tribe of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and owners, many of whom are in EU, but many are not, who are struggling just like we are. We just opened a Slack channel of communications for the leadership of Tucson, Arizona, not one of whom is a member of EO, but a lesson I learned from EO, which is have a Slack channel where leaders can talk to leaders about their problems. Just a closed channel, a confidential opportunity to talk to each other about what we're going through. Because many of those people don't know Forum. They don't know the kinds of activities and blessings that we have inside of EO, right? And we're trying to teach that to other people, to give them the opportunity to help themselves. So I think there are lots of times when I've called time out, I've had pause, but not for very long. I tend to have a lot of energy. There are lots of stuff I want to get done. And so I sort of plow ahead and make a lot of mistakes in the process, but in the end, generally get things done. So I hope that's helpful in a small way.
Thank you, Warren. Jamie Duragi posted in the chat, the world is changed by those who do and those who are disciplined. Can you share a short story of someone who is a doer?
Well, of course, Jamie's the classic example. I talk about Jamie all the time in his fencing and going from where he was to being a world champion and being the third best fencer in the world as of last October, where he won the bronze medal in the World Games. So yeah, I think that's really important. I think Eric Nauman, in leaving his professional business as a photographer, taking on a whole new business, the discipline that he shows every day in going through that is remarkable. It's extraordinary. Mark Russo, in changing his business, losing it all in the 2008, 9, 10, down to zero, owed the money, owed millions of dollars to the banks, rebuilt his entire business based on discipline and culture and people. Fantastic. Steve Satterwhite, in your hometown, Winnie of Houston, Texas, you know Steve well, went through a real important crisis and difficult crisis in his life. And yet he came back to discover himself through discipline, be the leader, lose 25 or 30 pounds, really focus on leadership, focused on cultures, now built one of the fastest growing companies in America. I think there are lots of examples that we have around us of people who have showed extraordinary discipline during good and bad times. So one of the things I will tell you, that when you're feeling bad about yourself and you're down and you've lost stuff, right? you tend to be less disciplined. And there's a lot of whining that goes on, right? There's a lot of woe is me. It's a feeling sorry for myself kind of thing. You got to get out of that mindset as quickly as possible. And the way to do that, discipline yourself to take action, discipline yourself to be active, discipline yourself to work out, to eat better. And when you do that, you take one small step forward in your new future. But if you just sit around and feel badly about yourself, it's going to be a rough go for you. So Jamie knows this from his fencing. He has built an extraordinary, remarkable, world-class fencing experience through personal discipline.
Thank you, Warren, and thank you, Jamie. Shout out to Jamie Warren, he's leadership chair of the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and has been instrumental in bringing this live stream to our GLA and RLA graduates. So thank you, Jamie, and the entire team of the EO Leadership Committee. Thank you so much. Let's see, Kent Gregory, do you envision entrepreneurs becoming more conscious as leaders toward people, purpose, and performance to ensure profit?
Ken, thank you very much, Ken. Now, Ken and I have exchanged emails over the last couple of days, and we're going to have a conversation very shortly in the next few days. So thank you very much for the question. I think that what happens in times of crisis is we come out of it more purposeful, more dedicated, more committed. And then we sort of get success, and then we forget some of the lessons we learned, and then we go down the road of getting kind of fat and happy again. And then boom, what happens? There's another crisis. There's another crisis. I can promise you that this is not your last crisis. Why? Because I've been through 13 of them in my lifetime. And we either prepare for them better and become more purposeful, or we will be exactly where we are again. Guaranteed. Because out there somewhere is another pandemic. Out there somewhere is another global economic crisis. Out there somewhere is another disaster. It's a nuclear reactor meltdown, right? It's a tsunami. It's a tornado. It's a hurricane. It's something that's going to change our lives again. So what we do is let's get through this slog, which we will, and then let's build and prepare in a new and different way. Let's build cash reserves in our business. Let's focus on diversification of revenue. Let's create the new culture for our people. Let's build our families differently. Let's create more time and more space to be a great husband and father. Let's do the things we know we have to do to create the building blocks of a sustainable, exceptional life. Life by design works. My wife and I spent 4 years designing our life before we had children. We never thought we were going to have the opportunity to have children. We were told it was biologically impossible, but yet we designed a life with a lot of kids. Fortunately, we ended up with 7 of them. We wanted more, but we only got 7. It was fantastic. 6 boys and 1 girl. But we had planned our entire life out. The reason we live on a farm today is because I was raised on a farm and I wanted the values of a farm for our family, shared with my wife. And so we've lived on a farm for the last 45 years. Just happens to be in the middle of the city, that's all. But we have horses and goats and pigs and sheep, and we have grass to mow and trees to trim and all that stuff because that's what we wanted for our family. Ask yourself the question, what do you want for your family? Design your life, then go live that life. Don't live a life you don't like. Don't live a life that you haven't designed. Design your life. And while that seems obscure today as we sit in the middle of this crisis, what a great time to plan your future. What a great opportunity this is to say, this is what we want from our life going forward. This is what I want in a marriage. This is what I want for our children. And then go live that life. And when you do that, happiness comes from that. Energy comes from that. And I know that you have the capacity to do that.
All right, we've got Ecuador, Vancouver, we've got the Philippines, we have Greece, we have Mexico, and we have Chris Jones. And his question is, do you have any recommendations on approaching government to help in the rebuild?
Yeah, most governments are doing some things already. In the United States, there are specific programs passed by the United States Congress that are going to affect dollars that can be used to sustain employment for employees and business help, forgiveness of loans, and so forth. Not every country is doing that, but most developed countries are doing something to assist because they see the private sector getting hit so hard by this particular event. And they need the private sector in every country, need the private sector and entrepreneurship to be successful, to drive the economy. So yes, the governments are going to do some. The challenge is that governments it's too easy for them to spend money, and they're spending our money, right? Because we pay taxes. They're spending our money, but they're, in the United States, over $2 trillion has already been committed. We see governments in the European Union doing the same kinds of things, right? Asia doing the same kinds of things, right? So we're going to continue to see governments trying to do that. And I think you should approach governments wherever you are on this call listening to this for assistance. I believe governments largely are sensitive to what's going on and understand that this pandemic is not going to be short term. My own view of this, and it's purely my view, my reading of the tea leaves, is that we are not going to get back to a normal lifestyle, however new normal is defined, a normal lifestyle, until there's massive testing and vaccine available. And I think that's 12 to 18 to maybe 24 months. So when we're planning our time horizon of coming out of this and what we have to do, plan longer rather than shorter. If it turns out to be shorter, great, but plan longer. And if you do that, you'll be safer. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong by a factor of 12 months, but I don't see how the pieces are going to get put together. We still have curves in some countries that are rising, deaths and sickness. We have other countries where it's leveled off. But we don't have any countries, in my opinion, that are really in a sharp decline with the virus at the present time. China maybe being the exception because they got into it first. So we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. Appeal to your government, appeal to the part of the government that can help private sector, and don't be embarrassed to do it. Go do it. Get the resources you need to make it through this, Chris.
Thank you, Warren. Warren, what are 3 things we can do to commit to a higher level of discipline?
Great question. The first is change your mind. Unless you have the mindset to do it, you can't do it. So it takes absolute focus. Focus on changing your behavior and make sure your mind is what does that. For example, this morning, I knew I was going to have this conversation with you and I wanted to prepare for that. But my discipline is that I work out at 5:30 to 6:30 every morning. And so I did my workout this morning before this, right? And it's that discipline of doing it. Put in your mind that this is important for you personally. It's necessary for you to be the whole person you want to be. So change your mindset is the first thing. And then secondarily, you have to really focus on what it is you want to do for the complete picture of your life, family, business, and community. So here are the 3 things that you want to do. Increase your discipline in every activity in which you're engaged. Every activity, as a father, a husband, as a business leader, every little thing you're doing, ratchet up your discipline just a little bit. The second, the world is changed by those who do. Be a doer. Don't sit around. Don't engage in idle talk. Don't engage in just hanging out, but rather be a doer. Go do things. Take action in every way. And then the third thing, of course, is that build the hope of those around you by your very activities. If people see you being disciplined in a time of crisis, rather than just hanging out and lounging around, then you have a chance to influence others. You have a chance to make it more successful, and you have the chance to build hope for others. And so because we're entrepreneurs, because we're enthusiastic and opportunistic, let's make sure we express that to other people, no matter how down they are. Express that hope, because we will get through this. We're going to be okay. We may be wounded a little bit. We may have lost some things, but we can rebuild. That's who we are. We're entrepreneurs. We can do this. The next episode that we're going to talk about is going to be live with purpose. The notion that if we live with purpose every day, we greatly increase our success and our chances of success. I look forward to talking to you again. You're fantastic. Go do the good work necessary and have great discipline in doing it. I'll look forward to talking to you on Monday.